Best of days to everyone there. I guess a good place to start is tool care and how to take care of tools. We're gonna start with a chisel. I've already kind of pre-ground this, and you can see that I took temper away here because I got it too hot, and that's a sign of temper being taken away. So it's a little weaker when you see colorization going on in it. So first thing we're gonna need is a machined surface and some wet dry paper. And take some water and put it on our wet dry paper. And we take our chisel. I'm gonna just flatten out the bottom here. And we switch it over. Do the other side. And again. And what we do by switching is we're making our sanding surface as even as possible. As you can see already, where I'm pressing down, you know, it takes off more on that side. It's impossible to keep an even distribution when you're sanding by hand because it's just how your body's formed. So if you're trying to do something real flat, it's good to count, you know, to 10, flip it over, count to 10, move it around, make sure your hands are in the same place and that you're putting about the same amount of pressure as best as you can to it. But we're working with wood, and wood's always moving, regardless of what it does. You can finish a project and it'll still move on you. Once we get a good even surface on the bottom, we can move over to the whetstones. And we'll go up and grit from that. Usually I use like 100 grit wet paper. To start, I don't have any on me today, so I'm doing this with 500 grit, which is a little slower, obviously. You can see we're getting closer. Call that close enough there. Now we take our whetstones, and I got these dual whetstones here, and they list the grits on the side. Obviously we start with the smallest grit, which would be 220 in this case, and this is a flattening stone, and we always kind of have to have a reference or a point, something to start at. So I'll just double check the surface, and you can see from last time I sharpened it, there's obviously not flat because of the dip in the middle there from usage. Now that we got that flat, I can stand up for the rest here. And we'll take it and put the stone kind of close to our body here, and we lock our elbows in. Okay, we don't do this because when we do this, you can kind of see I can't keep it flat because my hands, you know, the angle, everything. So we lock our body and we rock our body back and forth. Switch over. Making sure we always got water on our whetstone here. Okay. Now when we do our actual blade part, we're going to flip this over. The same thing. We're going to lock our body and we're going to do a figure 8 with it, okay? And you can see kind of the figure 8 pattern. Is kind of hard to see on there, I guess. So we'll just do that till we get ourselves a point or a nice flat surface there. Keeping water on it. Once we get a nice flat surface on the edge here, we give it a little bit of a bevel at the end, and I'll actually go up in stones then, because our cutting surface is going to be beveled. So I'll move up, find it, and I'll tip it up just a little bit more, okay? And I'll lock myself in again. Okay, now we'll do the same thing with a higher grit. Take our flattening stone. Flip it around because we have different pressures at different angles. Go back to our, find it, and we'll go up to our bevel. Flatter surface. Move up stone grit. And then this one is 4,000 and 8,000 grit. Obviously we're going to start with the 4,000 grit. Give it some clean water. Try our best not to mix grits, because you can see this water is already getting colored, and the color in that water is from the grit coming off of that. So you can take a higher grit and turn it into a lower grit by bringing grit over from a lower grit onto it. Same thing, locking our arms, figure 8 pattern. And just rocking back and forth. That should be good for that. Take it up to the last grit here. It's not a big deal if you mix a little bit of grit over. It's going to happen regardless, unless you just use a ton of water. Same thing, lock it over to our bevel. And I like to use body reference points. You know, I'll put it in my sternum right here by the heart chakra. And I don't ever hone woodworking tools just because you're going to be pounding on it real quick and you're not cutting, you know, softer stuff. Like a knife is different if you never touch bone. And now to check to see how we did on our sharpening, we want to use our nails right here. And we just kind of drag it real lightly on that nail, and you'll peel up some of that nail there, and that'll let you know it's sharp. So that is, in short and sweet, how to sharpen a chisel. And this applies for planes too, or axes or whatever, if you want to do it by hand. The most important thing is just to lock your arms in place here, because you can, you know, like if I'm trying to do that, you can naturally see the curve. When you extend your arm, it kind of does this rainbow, you know, shape when you're going about it. So there you go. There's a, go to a garage sale or find an old tool. I like cast steel. Let me grab a new tool. So a lot of these, you know, you can drop $500-600 on a chisel alone. You know, if you get Japanese steel, is really awesome if you have the money for it. And if you can see these, even in these Stanley Sweethearts, you get what this is like a layered, and you can see the little lines horizontal across here, to where cast steel is just more like a solid flush piece. It's a lot softer than this. These tools you will break if you try to do any type of bending on them, okay? They're just meant for straight down push on it. Where I like these, you just, you know, just, you'll bend it more likely than snapping off a whole bunch of edge on it. And you got to sharpen tools really quite frequent in woodworking. So I prefer older cast steel over the newer layered steel. And that's just a personal preference of mine. They're quicker to sharpen and they're quicker to dull, but it is what it is. Alrighty, I guess we'll call this for the sharpening video. And since we need a mallet, maybe go over to the lathe here and make a quick mallet. And we can show you how to use a roughening gouge and sharpen and care for that as well.